Welcome back. You're still watching Countdown with us. Half an hour to go for markets to close. Nifty is currently at about 11,765. So some recovery definitely seen from the lows of the day. Let's just pull up Bank Nifty as well. I think there's a sharper recovery coming up for Bank Nifty, which is at 30,725. So down only about 55 points. Remember, yesterday also Bank Nifty outperformed. There were a lot of long positions which came in on the Bank Nifty futures. Pull up the market breadth. Let's check if that's improved in the last half an hour or so. It's just even Steven right now for the broader markets as well. And pull up the European market indices. Let's see what they're doing currently. Last when I checked, they were off to a positive start and they are still trading in the positive territory. We've got the FTSE, CAC and DAX, all of them sitting with some amount of gains. And the Dow futures, yesterday S&P 500 closed at record high levels. Dow futures is just indicating a flat to negative start, at least for the US markets. Okay, let's check which are the Fab 4 stocks then which feature in Mishika Parik's list today. Hi Mishika, good afternoon. Which are the stocks that you're tracking?
Hi Navneet. The first stock on our list of Fab 4 today is Laxmi Vilas Bank. The stock hits 10% upper circuit as Competition Commission of India approves merger with Indiabulls Housing Finance. Now, as per the merger, the shareholders of the bank will get 14 shares of IHFL for every 100 shares held. The second stock on our list of Fab 4 today is Suzlon Energy, which is up almost 5% on the news that bankers meet today to resolve their $1.4 billion debt. The firm plans to offer a one-time settlement to the lenders led by SBI, as reported by Bloomberg. Stock number 3 is HEG, which has gone up almost 7%. The stock snaps out of its 7-day losing streak with volumes 3 times its 20-day average. And the last stock on our list of Fab 4 is MRPL, which is up 3%. Fresh longs were seen with high open interest of 18.18%. Back to you, Navneet.
Okay, Mishika, thanks a lot for bringing those Fab 4 stocks of the day. And MRPL is the one actually which has been strong throughout the session despite of markets turning weak. And talking about the markets, I think in the last 5 minutes, once again, there is some selling pressure which has come by. MRPL, however, is sitting with gains of about 3%. Look at that sharp fall. We just addressed the markets. And from those levels, I think that's another fall of about 30 to 40 points. Very quickly, Man, if I could come to you, a call on MRPL?
Yes, in fact, the prices have seen a series of decline recently in MRPL and are bouncing from its deep oversold levels. The structure of the stock still remain weak, so I don't recommend any bottom fishing into this stock. But for a short-term trading opportunity, yes, the stock could see a mean reversion towards its long-term averages. On the upside, 66 to 68 could be a possible targets, and anybody who's trading into this should definitely trade with strict stop losses. And for a medium-term, long-term perspective, I still see the structure is still weak. But for a short-term trading opportunity, the stock could see a near-term rally towards 68 levels on the upside.
Well, let's get in Deepak Shenoy of Capitalmind. He joins us right now on the show with his thoughts. Deepak, good having you. Thanks much for joining in. Deepak, what's the sense or what's the gut feel, if not a fundamental analytical feel that you might be having currently about what the markets could do over the near term? There is this big budget event which might turn out to be nothing for the Dalal Street per se. Where do you believe the markets could be?
Firstly, thanks, Neeraj, for having me on your show. I think the markets have been lackluster last few weeks. I guess there was a lot of enthusiasm after election results, and then kind of is petered out. But there is a lot of fear currently from two sources. First one is known NBFC and the damage that's been happening in the markets because of debt defaults has not entirely gone away. I expect a few more downgrades to happen towards the later half of, it's already the later half of this month, but and the early parts of July. That will probably add another, challenge to the mix. However, these are good things because in general it weeds out the weaker players. It will give us an indication of who the stronger ones are. At the same time, the second challenge now, I think, which is coming up is what happened with the NSE circular yesterday, and I'll expand on that perhaps more in a post later. But there is some consternation about how it will impact markets because of the way brokers have abused, some brokers have abused or misbehaved with the system in the past, where they have used client securities as margin against their own borrowing in order to provide for margin funding or for other activities. And that has been clamped down pretty hard by this NSE circular, which will result in some unwinding and some changes in the next 1.5 months. So I expect that to play out as the circular's impact gets absorbed by the market. I personally feel it's a good thing, but it will have an impact. So in the short term, these are the impacts. The budget, I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a blockbuster budget because it's already halfway into the year. But I believe we'll set up positions for a good budget in February next. I don't expect any new taxes. I do expect some move on infra. So there are those stocks I think which should do well, both from a, say, electricity transmission, railways, or in pure infrastructure roads perspective. What I'm looking forward to is deals, specifically foreign pension players or foreign funds looking to buy distressed Indian assets. I think that's a signal that we will finally be looking at a turnaround.
Deepak, what do you expect, I mean, out of any kind of policy action? I mean, today there's the GST Council meet. I doubt that anything can be done on autos, but anything that you expect or any one move in the budget that could be beneficial for a particular sector, segment, or the markets at large?
So, I mean, I think right now we're going to get the benefit of lower interest rates. The government is also going to get the benefit of a RBI dividend, a special dividend of some sort, whenever that comes. So there will be some headroom from a fiscal perspective. The banks may need some capitalization, but not all of it will be needed. So I expect some government spending to come through. I don't know of what kind, but there will be some extra government spending that should come through. It may not entirely affect retail. It doesn't make sense because if you've already done tax planning for this year, it doesn't make sense to introduce a whole host of tax advantages or disadvantages at this point. However, it has been done in the past. I think the last time they introduced these capital gains taxes on debt mutual funds, which was introduced in July. So that can, you know, hurt the mix. But policy-wise, I think I'm looking forward to seeing a bigger direction on a few things. We've talked a lot about some of the things in the last government itself, like water-based shipping or water-based carriage infrastructure, which we have not really done anything about. We've talked about more airports, perhaps. We've talked about you know, a lot of the road infrastructure getting monetized in a different way. That I think these are important things for the government to talk to us about. And I hope, and you know, this is a hope that I've had for a long time, that the government looks to finally remove us from the shackles of FEMA and make the rupee fully convertible. I don't know if it's going to happen now, but I hope at least some road or some path on that will come through. Let's see, it's just early days. I don't want to predict policy because it's better to react to it.
Okay, Deepak, stay on with us. While the GST Council meet is underway in New Delhi, the GST exemption in low-cost housing is likely to be fixed in today's GST Council meet, says T.S. Singh, the minister from Chhattisgarh. Speaking to reporters in Delhi, he lists out the agenda.
The agenda is regarding the minutes of the last meeting, confirmation of the decisions. I suppose it would be concerning the real estate. That would be one of the agenda. Then the issue which has been continuing is the lottery ticket issue, the issue between Kerala and Assam. So that will probably come up again today. No issues really relating to Chhattisgarh specifically. I think they would be discussing making Aadhaar linking mandatory for new registrations in GST. That might come up for discussion. It is the composition element which was introduced in the last minute. So they'll be fixing exemptions up to, let us say, maybe 40 or 50 lakhs or whatever exemption they'll fix for smaller city low-cost housing. Okay. So the idea was to keep low-cost housing outside the limit of GST taxation. And to rationalize taxation, it will be a composite tax rather than individual items. So that would probably be 5%, 6%. If you add a taxation slab on low-cost housing, then where in low-cost housing earlier, the offset was being provided to the builders, it was not being passed on to the
expensive, right?
Purchaser. Now, if you put in a slab for the low-cost housing also, then the low-cost housing purchaser will have to pay, let us say, 5% GST, whatever component of 5%. If it is 40 lakhs, so 5% will be 5 for the 22 lakh of rupees. If you impose a GST, consolidated GST regime, if you impose, then the low-cost housing person who is exempted today, because he is not charged GST by the builder, because he gets offsets. So we had opposed that, and I am happy that they had accepted that. For low-cost housing, they had fixed a limit for cities up to a point, which could be 40 or 50 lakhs, 30 lakhs, you'll get it after the meeting. So they would be exempted. In any case, they were not being charged. So, and the taxes for housing above that particular limit, they would be charged on a consolidated amount.
Okay, the markets are almost at the low point of the day. Yesterday we gained about 140 points and we've already shaved off 110 points out of that. And Bank Nifty is also down 165 points. Just want to highlight a few stocks which are still going strong. ICICI Prudential has seen strength throughout the day today, so that's still sitting with some amount of gains. I think even ICICI Lombard was up and about. Besides HDFC AMC is the other one. All of these stocks are seeing some. ICICI Lombard has, by the way, slipped into the red just in the last few minutes of trade. AMC is up about 2%. And the other one I wanted to highlight was United Spirits, which was up about 4 to 5% in yesterday's trade. I think there was some buying seen even in today's session. That seems to have come off the high point of the day, considering the markets have corrected. But still, United Spirits is sitting with gains of about nearly 2%. Just one stock I want to highlight, put up Jet Airways. It came out of the F&O ban for today's session, and the volatile moves that one had seen in yesterday's trade. Right now, the stock's up about 18 to 19%. It may likely once again enter into the F&O ban period for Monday's session. Looking at the activity in today's trade, it looks like the total open interest could exceed the 95% mark of market-wide position limit, which is required for a stock to enter into the F&O ban. As of yesterday, because it fell below the 80% mark, it was 76%, and that was the reason why it came out. But there is activity which is seen on both the futures as well as the option side, and whoever is taking position into this stock, 27th June is the last day that you can trade because it comes out of the derivatives market, Neeraj.
Yeah, well, so watch out for this. Watch out for the other two that have been under the F&O ban today, or entered into the F&O ban yesterday. Reliance Capital, Reliance Infra. Maybe Infra was already in the ban and Capital re-entered the F&O ban. It's amazing that we haven't spoken about those two stocks at all in the last 1 hour, 10-15 minutes. But flattish moves for both the ADAG group stocks, at least the ones which are not single digits. It's time to take a look at what dealing rooms are recommending in the session today. Yatin Mota and Darshan Mehta are here with their channel checks. Good afternoon, both of you. Yatin, let's start off with you first.
Neeraj, UPL, that stock was quite volatile yesterday. Today has managed to recover, almost 2%. Dealers do expect further short covering. Today, there was short covering. It has come off significantly from the day's high, but dealers do believe that the short covering here will continue for the next 1 or 2 trading sessions. They're expecting some bit of uptrend because of that short covering. Another one is Yes Bank, and have seen continuous amount of selling and supply coming in there. Dealers do indicate that domestic funds are sellers as far as Yes Bank is concerned for trade today. 4% down for that one. Volumes also looking good, over 1 crore shares traded. And Ujjivan Financial, this is the top F&O loser in trade today. Neeraj, and both Equitas and Ujjivan have seen some selling pressure. The fear in the market is that once the small finance banks list or probably get demerged, there could be some holding company discount which can be applied to all of these. So some selling ahead of those events moving ahead, because in a period of 3 years from the issue of license, these small banks were to list separately according to RBI regulations. So let's see how really does the entire transaction shape up. Dealers are recommending sell today, buy tomorrow kind of a strategy as far as the F&O trends are concerned. But Darshan has a few more stocks to talk.
Yeah, so one stock which has been spoken about today is Jubilant Foodworks, is down 2% in trade. Dealers indicate that some of the domestic funds have been sellers in the counter, so that's something that's been watched about. The other counter in which there is selling pressure that's coming in, and that is RBL Bank, again trading down by 2%. Some of the HNIs are active sellers in the counter. And finally, the metal pack is something that dealers like at this point of time. Tata Steel is flat in today's trade, but nevertheless, a large foreign brokerage is actively recommending this stock to its client.
Well, let's wait and watch. The last Darshan, Yatin, thanks so much for putting that dealer expectations into perspective. Deepak, what did you make of what's happening in Jet Airways the last 2 days? I'm sure you have some thoughts here.
Sorry, I lost the question there. Could you repeat that?
Jet Airways, Deepak. What have you made of what's happening in Jet Airways the last 2 days?
Okay, I'll be frank on this. I think that stock is going to zero. There is going to be no rescue of any sort, and I really think everybody should just avoid this counter. If you have it, sell it. You're going to get 70 rupees more than it's worth. There is no activity. Our airline has not been running for a month or 2 months. Is degrading value on an exponential basis on a daily basis, on every day. You're losing the brand. Even, I was almost laughing at a mail that came in with jet privilege points. I know they probably still have value, but you can't use it on the airline that was created to, have delivered those points in the first place. But I don't think there's going to be any value left here. I don't think there's going to be any buyer. So, I think enjoy the next few days because the F&O players are having fun. That's the last we'll see of that stock, I think. It's just a sad thing, but as a warning, I think don't play here. This is just, this is speculative waters at an extreme degree.
Well, Deepak, fun and games will actually come to an end on June 27th. And in fact, not only on the F&O side, remember, for the cash also starting June 28th, Jet Airways will be entering from the rolling settlement to trade for trade, which actually means that you'll have to compulsorily take the delivery in case if you're buying the stock in any intraday session. Right now, of course, you can buy, sell on the same day for Jet Airways. The price band then will be 5%, so you cannot witness the wild moves that we saw in yesterday's trade and also today when the stock is up about 17 to 18%. Deepak, wanted your thoughts on HDFC AMC. I think recently Capitalmind did a webinar stating the Z horror show featuring HDFC AMC. What did you make of the news that the mutual fund is looking to buy NCD worth about 500 crore of SL Group?
So this is, interesting for us because the AMC is taking the risk on its own books, but only for a specific set of customers, which is the people whose FMPs have matured. And I think they are doing this because they got show cause notices from SEBI suggesting that they explain their action they took on the FMPs. To give to give viewers a background, the idea was that these FMPs were maturing on a certain date. There was an NAV and that NAV was not fully honored to the extent of the debt that those FMPs had, which is owned by the Z promoters group. So that is the SL group and Subhash Chandra group. And because they weren't able to fulfill the full part of the NAV, HDFC tried to roll over the FMPs for another year, which successfully went through, but again violated a ton of SEBI regulations in all possibilities. This is why the show cause notices come. So the issue now is they have taken this problem debt in their own books. They said they will value it at the valuation at the time those FMPs matured, which if it was April was about the par value. If it is May, I think it's 10% below the par value because there was a downgrade of these particular securities in May 23rd to be precise. And we believe that there is potentially more room for another downgrade of these particular bonds because according to the rating agency, there is a requirement that 6 weeks after May 8th, the Subhash Chandra Group should have announced their sale of their stake or partially exit of their stake in Z Enterprises and Dish TV to be able to pay for the debt on the SL Group, promoter group company. So it hasn't happened so far. This is exactly 6 weeks. In a couple of weeks, it will be 8. And I believe that if there is no news of any sort from the Z stable, there will be another downgrade and the hit will be passed. This will then hit other bonds that are owned by HDFC and other mutual funds as well. So the horror show is really that it's like a sliding thing that's happening, a train wreck in slow motion. If the companies have decided, the mutual fund companies decided to keep the shares and not sell them in order to recover their money, they could have sold them. Reliance did so. And the action they're taking is because of the fact that they took that decision. and did not sell those Z shares in order to recover their money. They could have done that, and therefore they're taking the risk away from certain shareholders. This can hit HDFC AMC's balance sheet, wiping out about maybe to a quarter of profit if there was a default and they are able to only sell the shares for at a deep discount. But I believe in the interest of the long-term interest of the AMC, it probably was the right thing to do because they took the decision not to sell the shares, and they are going to, the shareholders of the HDFC AMC are going to have to bear the brunt of that decision.
Okay, I just want to pull up Hexaware. There's a big move which has come in the last 5 minutes of trade. In fact, this was the stock which was holding about also throughout the session. It is an outperformer for the week, but the big buying has actually come up in the last 5 minutes of trade. It's sitting with gains of about 9%. We'll get you technical thoughts on that, but just 10 minutes to go from markets to close. So let's get some closing ideas going from our technical experts. Shitij, if I could come to you first, any BTST or any STBT for Monday's trade?
Yeah, definitely. Markets are basically witnessing a wild swings, but in coming week, I believe once again bulls can take control over the markets, and in next week, I believe the cement stocks can see some kind of value buying coming into the from technical parameters. So the stock is coming onto the radar is Remco Cement as of now, currently trading around 803, 802 odd levels. I believe the momentum play can be taken as a BTST can be taken into Remco Cement by keeping a stop loss just below 780 levels. If somebody wants to take a positional trade as well, play for 835 to 840 levels in 1 to 2 trading sessions for Remco Cement.
Okay, Manav, your closing idea and a thought on Hexaware as well.
Yes, so at the current levels, I like Concor. In fact, this is also a part of the Nifty Infra Index. And the stock has seen a good breakout from its short-term consolidation. For the near-term perspective, yes, the momentum can take it towards 575, but one should not take it for a short-term momentum play, but a broader perspective, it's very well poised to see an upside move of at least 650 going forward. For Hexaware, yes, in fact, the stock was witnessing a good amount of sideways consolidation and the breakout that it has witnessed today. And in fact, since last couple of trading sessions, there was huge amount of volumes. And if you also look at the delivery percentage, volumes are also increasing. It was much high yesterday. And looking at the momentum indicators, I think definitely there is no risk reward for any person to enter at the current zone. But yes, the prices have come out for a big sideways consolidation. Maybe a dip towards the levels of 400, which is the next support zone, is where one can look to consider. But as of now, for trading opportunities, there is no risk reward.
Yeah, well, I can understand that call as well. Just looking at stocks that have had some movements in the last few minutes, I think on the index, probably Tech Mahindra, but at the broader end of the spectrum, aside of course, Hexaware, Adani Transmission has had this big surge. Just bring up that stock, was doing virtually nothing, Adani Transmission, and then a big spike up. Manav, any thoughts here, Adani Transmission?
Yes, see, if you are looking at this chart since last couple of months, broader perspective, it has been in a tight consolidation zone. We have not seen any kind of momentum into the stock and has not been a trader's pick. In fact, on the lower side, the broader range has been 210 is the support and 250 is the resistance. So at this juncture, we can just expect a rally towards 250, but the stock actually has to see a breakout above 250 levels for any decisive move on the upside. So at the moment, the structure is still positive, but for a momentum play, wait for a breakout on the upside.
Okay, so that's the view on Adani Transmission. There is Gati, there is Aditya Birla Fashion, there is Alchem Labs. Alchem Labs has had a good move too. Marksons Pharma marginally higher in trade. So these 2 or 3 names that you got to monitor in the session today. Deepak, Shenoy, one final question to you. Everybody talks about whether or not it's a good time to buy into autos, etc. I'm wondering if you believe that auto ancillaries and not the Motherson Sumi and the Bharat Forge, which have, well, maybe larger issues, global issues, and therefore difficult to fathom that much, but domestic suppliers, is the pain in the price for a Jamna Auto, for a Lumax, for a Minda Corp, etc. Is the pain in the price, or would you wait it out?
So I think selectively many of these players are interesting. As a disclosure, I own some of them, and I believe that if you look at a 5-year perspective, that these prices are actually pretty good to buy most of these companies. However, it's not going to recover in the next 2 or 3 months. Probably it'll take, even after the big Ashok Leylands and the M&Ms recover, it will still take some more time for the ancillary prices to recover. So if you're in here, you've got to be thinking 2022, 2023 as an exit point for these stocks or more. So that is the thinking, because at this point there's a lot of challenges in the CV space, there's a lot of challenges in the personal car space. We're seeing stoppages of production, and therefore a slight, and every time any of these things happen, they will constrain supply today, and when demand comes back, that demand will take some time before some of these things come back into action. So the issue will be the recovery will probably still take 6 to 8 months. I thought it should be over by now, but I think in the longer term we will see great participation by these companies. Their margins may not improve substantially, but I think their cash flow will, and their debt servicing cycles will improve dramatically in the next 24 months, both from lower interest rates and from a recovery first at the OEM end, which is the manufacturer itself, and secondly at from their replacement markets. So Jamna is one of the players there. I think some of the others also have lights, have wires, and a bunch of other things that are for the domestic market. This will take some time, but I don't see demand dropping off. I don't think India is stopping buying cars or trucks anytime soon. We are not anywhere close to saturation levels, so I'm still in for the long term. My bias perhaps because these stocks haven't done well at all, but that's what I think.
Okay, Deepak, we'll leave it at that note. Appreciate you joining us today and taking us through your views on the markets. Have a good weekend, Matt. Markets are not doing great at all. In fact, index is down 100 points in trade. I just want to quickly take a view on V-Guard, pull up that stock, which is still holding about in green, up about 5% in trade. Manav, any thoughts here?
Yes, in fact, the stock has been in a very good bullish uptrend. In fact, after a good short-term corrective decline from its peak of 250, the stock has decisively closed above its, likely to close above its yesterday's high, which has confirmed a short-term trend reversal, at least on the short-term time frame. And most importantly, the volumes are also above 20-day average volumes, and the oscillators are bouncing from the deep oversold levels. I sense, looking at the overall trend for this stock, there is a high likely chance that the prices would even exceed its recent swing high and probably see a good momentum rally on the upside. The upside target can be placed at 270 for a positional trader, can maintain a stop loss at 230 on the lower side.
Okay, Jaman, stay on. Let's start wrapping up the markets. And not a good day, but our experts are bullish about the near term. Keep that at the back of your mind. We're ending in and around the lowest point of the day for the benchmark indices. Though the Nifty Bank has, well, done slightly better in the last 45 minutes, marginally at that. Mid caps and small caps, the tables turned at around 2 o'clock and the market was worsened, but I don't think there is a dramatic impact on the Nifty Bank either. Let me talk about the large caps first though, and let's see what's moved and what's not. So some gains to a UPL after yesterday's carnage, up about a couple of percentage points. Some gains for Hindalco, Indiabulls Housing Finance, Tech Mahindra, State Bank of India and IndusInd Bank from the banking lot too have done reasonably okay for themselves. What's not done well, Yes Bank, after that 12% up move yesterday, corrects in the session today. HDFC corrects about 2.5% today. Maruti Suzuki 3%. It's been a sore spot throughout the trading day. HUL, Hero MotoCorp, autos have had a slightly tough day. Coal India has corrected a little bit, and down there Kotak Mahindra Bank down about 1.5%. So yes, Kotak are amongst those banking names that have looked slightly wobbly in the session today. What about the broader end of the spectrum, Naveen? Are you starting with Jet yet again?
No, today is Hexaware, but let me tell you, one of those few days where the broader markets have outperformed the benchmark. So it was a mixed day for broader markets, but the breadth was even, Steven. Let me start off with Hexaware, which was, as it is, trading in the positive territory for most of the session, but the last hour saw some aggressive buying coming in. Finally, the stocks looking to close with gains of about 7.5 to 8%. And yes, Jet Airways features in my list once again, the stock which came out of the F&O ban period. Well, towards the closing, I think it's fallen again from those highs. So it was a volatile session again for this counter. 63 to 64 is the level where it would be closing today. TBZ, interestingly, the stock was down 13% on Wednesday. Yesterday also there were some wild moves seen, and once again today the volumes were quite high for this one. So that was up and about by about 10%. Laxmi Vilas Bank was locked in upper circuit today, up about 10%. The other one from the banking space, JNK Bank, that too was locked in upper circuit. It saw some buying momentum coming in today's session, 10% higher on the mark of 41 to 42. From the sugar pack, you have Awadh Sugar, that saw 9% gains. Around the mark of 654 is where the closing for this one will come about. Dewan Housing, after correcting in the last many sessions, has seen some bit of recovery. Yesterday also the stock was up, but today I think it's closing off the day's high, but still with gains of about 4%. On the losing side, Soba, in the morning session, there was a bulk deal which took place. There was a bunched up trade basically. After that, the stock only saw selling pressure, so that's also closing with cuts of about 7 to 8%. Your small finance banks, Ujjivan and Equitas also featured among the top F&O losers list. So 7% lower for Ujjivan, Equitas closing with cuts of about 4%. Oracle Financial also fell in today's session. In fact, this one touched its 52-week low mark. And from the pharma pack, you had Aurobindo, which received a warning letter from US FDA for its Srikakulam plant in Andhra Pradesh. So that was down. But I think there was some recovery from the lows. Finally, still closing with cuts of about 4%. And pharma has been a laggard. You also had stocks like Cadila today, which fell. Cadila saw cuts of about 3%. That's closing around the day's low mark. And graphite makers have been under pressure because of price correction and raw material prices inching higher. Today also graphite's closing with cuts about 6%. Kajaria Ceramic was weak throughout the trading session today. One of the top F&O losers, 5.5% cuts coming in. And finally, you also had something like Orient Cement from the broader market, which saw some selling pressure. 103, 104 is where Orient Cement would be closing with cuts of about nearly 6%. So, Neeraj, but we've given up majority of the gains that were seen for Nifty yesterday.
Yes, we have, but let's see, as our experts stated throughout the show, that today may be a day of that consolidation or a pullback, but maybe, just maybe, the next few weeks could look slightly positive. Let's wait and watch. The turnover in the session today should come up on your screen. First day of post yesterday's series, and well, cash market turnover certainly very, very high. I don't know if there were some bulk deals that happened today, but 39,000 crores is above average than almost any single day that we've seen in the recent past. Just that the F&O volumes, though you would say that pretty high for a normal day, which is not the F&O expiry day as well.
Yep, it's just above the average of 6 to 6.5, which is the average turnover. But we've been talking about the geopolitical tension in the Middle East, and India Volatility Index, I think since the morning session, saw some bit of spike coming by, and India VIX, I think, finally closing with gains of about 4 to 4.5% in today's trade.
Yeah, just bring up the mid caps and the small cap indices and quickly highlight for the week. The weekly performance, that is what I'm trying to say, is let's just bring up what the weekly performance for all the indices have been, because it shows what the gains and the losses have been. The losers include some ADAG group stocks, but HEG and Graphite, interestingly, top the list of losers. And then you have a Reliance Capital down about 11%. Some losses to Dilip Buildcon. Spark features in the list. Reliance Infra features in the list. So, well, not surprised, just that ADAG or the Indiabulls Group stocks are not at the bottom of the pile, which is pretty interesting.
Yep, the sort of short covering this on yesterday's trade. On the gaining side, Hexaware, majority of the move came in today's trade, but it has been an outperformer for the entire week. The stock was moving higher. Oberoi Realty is the other one, which saw gains of about 7 to 8%. Apollo Tyres bounced back. That was up 7%. Remember, some 3% equity change in Apollo Tyres during the week. And Tata Global Beverages was pretty much strong. Chemical maker SRF has been trading around its all-time high levels. And some of the other gainers were Mangalore Refinery and also something like Prestige Estates.
Yeah, the small cap gainers and losers should come up on your screen. Talk about the gainers for a change. Cyient did okay. Avanti Feeds did okay, but no noticeable gainer really. I mean, all the stocks are probably the ones that are not necessarily present in all portfolios. So a fairly feeble list of gainers at the small cap end of the spectrum, Navneet.
Yeah, and huge carnage, Neeraj, seen for your high beta counters, and Jain Irrigation is one of them. Despite coming out with a clarification that they will be looking to cut their debt by about 2,000 crore, the stock for the week is still down by about 30 to 32%. Jet Airways still for the week is down about 21%, and the other usual suspects, Vakrangi, Reliance Communication, they continue to fall. But you also had IRB Infra, where some news reports indicated that NHAI will be inviting fresh bids for Mumbai-Pune Expressway, and your small finance bank, Ujjivan Financial, was down about 11 to 12%.
But it's quite stunning that despite 2 days, one day a gain of 89% and the other day gain of 18%, Jet Airways has still lost 21% for the week. So that tells you the magnitude of the fall in the preceding 3 days. The final thoughts from our experts, though. Shitij, to you first. If you're indeed bullish on the Nifty moving up, will it be supported by the Nifty Bank? What's the call on the Nifty Bank for the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, the question is to me. Okay. Yeah, exactly. At the start of the show, right. At the start of the show, as I have mentioned that I am not that much bearish onto the Nifty as far we are holding above 11,650 mark, because from the derivative point as well, 11,700 strike still holds the maximum open interest in puts. So I believe as far we are holding above 11,650, 11,700 on spot levels, I believe the bullish momentum will once again keep up into the market in coming week as well. And rightly mentioned, the banks, some of the banks are looking much more promising to me, which can move the bank Nifty towards say its recent highs. The banks I have already mentioned at the start of the show. ICE is a bank, where SBI. These both stocks are looking much more promising to me. And I want to add disclaimer as well that we have already recommended these stocks as a buy call in yesterday's session to our clients as well. So ICICI, SBI, HDFC twins. These the derivative data and the technical parameters. All the structure are as of now looking much more positive to me, which can move the markets in coming week to its recent highs.
Okay, Manav, your call has been on the upside when it comes to Nifty, at least for till the month of July. But in the coming week, do you think it's going to be an index-specific week or it's going to be a stock-specific week?
See, I think going forward, at least for the first week, you will see a lot of index stocks would see the initial throttle. And once, if the index manages to break above the important crucial level, is then the other basket of stocks would also come into the picture. So for the initial first week, I recommend that SBI and Larsen would be the two large cap stocks one should look in very closely. SBI, after a good 10-year structural breakout, is still maintaining its base of 330 support zone, and we've not seen that stock go below the crucial support. And it has been forming a series of higher bottoms. So that initial leadership has been seen in SBI, and even Larsen has seen a good amount of breakout. And I've been very bullish on the Nifty Infra, so Larsen has in heavyweight. So these two are the heavyweights which I expect for the first week going forward of the July would see that initial leadership, and then the other sectors and stocks would be followed in this.
Okay, watch out for the banking leader and the infrastructure leader. Manav is anyways very bullish on the infra index as well, being the key pillars of the rally that he expects in the month of July. Manav, Shitij, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking to us today at Bloomberg. We really appreciate your time. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Countdown from Navneet, me and the team that put this show together. Thanks so much for watching. But stay tuned, the market wrap comes up next.